What's up, Mets fans and MLB fans in general? Welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. It's your boy CP here, back with another episode on the CP New York Sports Network. Today is going to be a little bit of a fun video. It's an opinionative piece, not so much the objective pieces that I've been putting out as of recent. With the lack of MLB reporting around the league and of the lack of Mets reports as of recent, I figured I'd make this video on why MLB journalism is dead, in my personal opinion. So before we get into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button, support the podcast, hit that thumbs up, and comment your thoughts and opinions about this topic. It should be a fun little topic, and I'm interested to hear what you all have to think about it. Also, you know where to find me at CPNYSPORTS on X, Instagram, YouTube are all my handles. Rock with me, you know where to find me. And without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so like I said, this is going to be a little bit more of a fun video to make with the lack of reports surrounding the Mets and around the entire MLB. If you missed my latest episode yesterday, I just dropped it. Go check that out. I talked about the MLB signings around the league, and some of the more concrete MLB reports that are surrounding the New York Mets. So go check that out. It's going to be in the description down below. But let's get into it. Today, we're going to be talking about why baseball journalism is dead, and this is a tale as old as time. It's a known fact that these baseball beat reporters, when they get bored, will not hesitate to throw out quotes and opinion pieces to misguide the general public with their lack of information. Um, and like I said, do I blame them? No, they're doing their job. And I'm not here to blame anybody or any of these reporters. I'm just simply calling the facts of what this offseason up until this point has been. And we've seen this in particular this offseason with the whole Yoshinobu Yamamoto situation, where reporters are pretty much reporting blindly. It's clearly evident that no one has any insider knowledge on Yamamoto's preferences or anything else regarding where he's going to be signing for that matter. And there are quotes and articles and interviews that the general MLB fan base is eating right up. And I'm here to tell the viewers that they got it all wrong. So, like I said, I'm going to tie this back into the Mets at the end, and I'm going to tie it back into Steve Cohen. If you saw the thumbnail, this is about the Mets and Steve Cohen at the end of the day, because Steve Cohen is MLB's villain, and the reporters and the content that they put out make it seem as such as well, with how they talk about the New York Mets in relation to these top free agents. So let's just go ahead and run through some artifacts here. And these are the quotes that I chose that have come out in recent days to sort of back my opinion. Again, this is an opinion of why baseball journalism, specifically MLB, is dead and in the gutter. So, quote unquote, Andy Martino from yesterday, SNY's Andy Martino reports for both the Yankees and the Mets. And we all know my thoughts and opinions on Andy Martino's reporting and his favoritism that he loves to show the New York Yankees. It's clearly evident. So, quote unquote, he said, could the underdog Mets actually land Yamamoto with a question mark? Now, in each of these quotes, and as silly as they are, I decided to put in the little ha 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 image because, like I said, it's just funny to me how anyone in their right mind covering the sport of baseball and the MLB could actually believe that the Mets are underdogs for any top free agent with the wallet of Steve Cohen. It's just comical to me at this point. Um, Andy Martino has been singing this Yamamoto to the Yankees tune this whole entire offseason and decided to ramp that tune up as soon as the Yankees got Juan Soto, which is fine. Which is fine. And I'm not saying that the Yankees don't have any chance of landing Yamamoto, but to specifically call the Mets underdogs because there's been no talk about the Mets linked to Yamamoto since Steve Cohen flew out there to Japan is just quite silly. The fact of the matter is, and what's wrong with this quote, and the reason Andy Martino gave behind this quote is the Mets were one of the first teams to do their due diligence and meet with Yamamoto. And they were the only team, as far as I'm concerned, and that I know about, that actually flew to Japan to meet him instead of waiting for him to come to the United States and meet them. Steve Cohen did that. He took, it's well reported, well documented, that Steve Cohen took Yoshinobu Yamamoto and his family out to a fine dining restaurant in Japan. Nobody knows what it is, nobody knows where it was, but that is a known fact. And to sort of put this quote out there, making the Mets seem as underdogs, is just absolutely hilarious to me. So that's artifact number one. Artifact number two, per the New York Post's John Heyman. And I have a lot of respect for John Heyman. And like I said, at the end of the day, I have a lot of respect for all of these reporters. They're doing their job. And I understand that they're quite bored. And quite frankly, I'm bored on my YouTube channel as well with the lack of reporting. So this is why I decided to make this video. Fun fact. John Heyman says, quote unquote, the Yankees and the Dodgers are the co-favorites, but don't hold me to it, quote unquote, from John Heyman. He said that on MLB Network today. And like I said, how can you label the Yankees and Dodgers as co-favorites? And I'll tell you why he did it, because he saw Bob Nightingale's post and his quote naming the Dodgers and the Yankees as favorites yesterday. And John Heyman decided, let me go ahead and just echo that because I have no factual reporting for myself. He had no base and no reason to label the Yankees and Dodgers as co-favorites. And he even said it in this quote right here. He doesn't want anyone to hold him to it. The fact of the matter is that nobody, not any single one of these reporters, know concretely what's happening in Yoshinobu Yamamoto's situation. And I'll tell you at the end why all of these quotes are so funny to me, other than how they appear at face value, which is funny enough. So this was from John Heyman. Next quote, per the Athletics' Ken Rosenthal, quote unquote, he says, in my opinion, he decides, and he being Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he decides and then the money comes. The context behind this quote is he's saying Yamamoto is going to pick his fit first, and then he's going to negotiate the contract terms with a team. That is not how MLB free agency works, my friend. And I understand that Yoshinobu Yamamoto's situation is a little different because he is posted from the Japanese league and the parameters for negotiation are a little bit different. But you don't decide on a team and then talk about money after. You get a gauge of the market and what the range of these teams are willing to pay you, and then you understand what the Yankees are willing to pay you. Then you go to the Mets. What are they willing to pay you? You go to the Dodgers. What are they willing to pay you? And then you kind of dwindle it down. You don't decide on any team before you get a money value figure. So this was a silly quote to me, and this is how I interpreted the quote. Like I said, my opinion, not fact. I know there's a lot more context surrounding these quotes, and I've read all the context surrounding these quotes from Ken Rosenthal and everybody else that decided to analyze these quotes, and it is just absolutely silly to me. Now, lastly, sorry, wrong slide. That is going to be the next slide. Lastly, what happened to that slide? It looks like I am missing a slide. So as I add that slide, apologies here, I'm going to pull up one more of Ken Rosenthal's quotes because this was actually the funniest one of these quotes to me, and it made me laugh a little bit. It made me chuckle because I feel like this is what the MLB, I feel like this is what journalism is summed up in general. Like I said, all these guys that I'm putting up on here, Heyman, Martino, Rosenthal, they're all trying to do their job, and I completely understand that. I just think that some of these quotes, when they do it deliberately, just misguides the public. And so I have to call it out. Another one of Ken Rosenthal's quotes from yesterday, he went on Foul Territory TV, and basically he was asked whether or not he thinks teams deliberately mislead him to get sort of I guess misguided information out there to try to trick the rest of the MLB, the league. I'm not sure exactly where the question was going in terms of that, but the general consensus was, hey Ken, do you think when you're reporting that MLB teams try to give you false information to fool you in order to inform the general public of fooling everybody else that we're in direct competition with? And to that, Ken Rosenthal responded, quote unquote, He said he followed up by saying, yes, that does happen somewhat, but quote unquote, what happens more frequently is guys like me trying to get information ultimately get shut down, quote unquote. That is directly from Ken Rosenthal. And that just shows you Ken Rosenthal is keeping it 100. He's keeping it a buck here. I think this is funny, but I think that this is inevitably true, which makes these gentlemen's job a lot harder. In terms of providing the most accurate information because teams like the Dodgers or a camp of Yoshinobu Yamamoto is not going to want to reveal their hand in terms of this negotiation process to a guy like Ken Rosenthal. They know that he's going to release it to the public. And once that becomes a publicly available information, the other side immediately has leverage. So, like I said, when you talk about these guys like Ken Rosenthal, like John Heyman, and quite frankly, my favorite reporter is Jeff Passan because I don't see as much I guess opinionative think pieces from Jeff Passan. He keeps it strictly factual and he waits to drop those bombshells of reports when he is almost 100% confident that they are true. He'll not go on MLB Network and say that, quote unquote, these guys are the co-favorites, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe he does. I just haven't seen it much out of him as much as the rest of these guys. But this was the funniest quote to me is that Ken Rosenthal basically admitting that himself and probably his journalistic peers get shut down more oftentimes than not when they're trying to acquire factual information. So, how does this all tie into the New York Mets? Well, ultimately, we all knew when Steve Cohen was taking over as owner of the New York Mets and buying the team, one, the MLB collective ownership had to vote him in. That is first and foremost a fact, and that is quite funny to me. We saw a couple owners from select teams speak out, especially the smaller market teams that were very scared of Steve Cohen's pockets while coming into the league in terms of free agency and just transactions in general. And then two, Steve Cohen is MLB's villain. And the reporters are treating him as such with the lack of Mets information. We saw it from Ken Rosenthal when he had one of those quotes basically saying that Yamamoto decides on the team first and then the money comes after. Regardless if that's true or not, the reason that he gave, and I listened to that interview he did on Foul Territory TV, he basically said he doesn't know what Yamamoto's preference is as of yet. Nobody knows that outside of Yamamoto and his camp, which is true. But then he went on to give a little bit more context saying, he could want to play with Shohei Ohtani on the Dodgers. That could be an attraction. Or he could be enamored by the Yankees and the whole prestigiousness that comes with the pinstripes and the Yankees' past success. And then he kind of alluded to the fact that he brought the Mets in, but how did he bring the Mets in? He didn't talk about the Mets team. He talked about, well, the Mets could also still be in place strictly due to Steve Cohen's pockets. He didn't mention anything about him being the immediate ace on the New York Mets if he were to sign with the New York Mets. He didn't mention the fact that if you are in New York, even if it's Queens, you are still in the Big Apple and a part of a big market team. No, let's not talk about that and let's forget those points, but let's talk about Steve Cohen's pockets and how it's going to be Steve Cohen outbidding everybody else if the Mets land Yamamoto, which is 100% true. If the Mets land Yamamoto, it's probably because they do offer him a heftier price. And we all know what happens with these international signings. When a Japanese player gets posted from a Japanese league, his respective team that posted him in that Japanese league gets revenue sharing from the deal that he gets from the MLB. It's a certain percentage up to 25 million, then a certain percentage on top of the 50 million, et cetera, et cetera. You get my gist. That is a well-known fact, which is what all these MLB reporters are failing to tell the public that that's a fact. They're talking about this fit, that fit. He may take lower AAV to go play with Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers. That is not what happens usually with these international free agent signings due to that revenue sharing of the MLB sharing with those respective teams in the Japanese league. So let's make sure we call out all the facts for what they are. And like I said, Mets fans, prepare yourself. If the Mets indeed land Yamamoto, we know the narrative surrounding this signing and what they're going to be. Steve Cohen went above and beyond. The Mets would have never had a shot if they didn't offer him $50 million more. Like, I already know what the consensus of these quotes are going to be if the Mets land Yamamoto. And are we still a ways out from a Yamamoto decision? Yes, we are. It's presumed he'll make his decision within the next 10 days, and we don't know the exact time frame of when he makes that decision. But sort of the gist of what I'm trying to get at is the lack of integrity of these MLB reports is something of concern and something that I felt I needed to call out as I'm watching these reports come out with the Yoshinobu Yamamoto decision. Now, we've seen this before too. Like I said, this isn't just about the Yoshinobu Yamamoto decision. This is something that the MLB has struggled with, where you have a lot of fake reporters, fake insiders fooling the general public. And even these well respected journalists like Martino is well respected. I will say that first and foremost. I got to give all these guys credit because they do great work when they're reporting factual information. Ken Rosenthal is respected. He's been in the game for a long time. John Heyman's very well respected. But it just becomes an issue when they put out blind reports and show that favoritism and are not afraid to show that favoritism because the Dodgers landing Ohtani is supposedly great for baseball, and that's what I've heard from these reporters and the MLB fan base in general. But the narrative that I fear if Steve Cohen goes above and beyond to secure Yoshinobu Yamamoto is that this is not good for baseball. We have the richest owner in baseball outbidding every other team. How are the other teams supposed to compete? Pick a side and pick a side of the fence to stand on if you're going to pick a side. You cannot have it both ways. You just can't have it. So that's my point. That's my gist. Like I said, these are all my opinionative pieces on baseball journalism and the state of baseball journalism as it stands right now. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Was I spitting facts or am I good at getting ahead of myself here? Like I said, this is my own opinion, nothing factual about it. The quotes that I put in here as artifacts are factual, but my opinion surrounding them after I have read the context from said reporters is my own opinion and it's not factual. And I will be the first to say that. So, this is a little bit of a fun episode. Hit that thumbs up, comment your thoughts and opinions on everything that I talked about today as it relates to baseball journalism in general or the Yoshinobu Yamamoto sort of situation, and hit that subscribe button as you're watching this bottom right hand corner of this video. More Mets content, more content as factual reports come out. I'm sort of hesitant to sort of continue on these Yamamoto spiel if we don't have factual information. If there's credible information, like, I can generally say that Yamamoto met with the Dodgers and the Dodgers brought Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman to the discussion, to the picture in that meeting. That is a fact. But labeling the Dodgers as co-favorites just due to that fact is a little bit like sketchy to me in terms of how these reporters are portraying that information. So, like I said, follow me on all of my social media handles at CPNY Sports. You know where to find me. And I said it a couple of videos ago, as soon as we learned that the Ohtani contract had a lot of deferment, $680 million deferred, I automatically understood that the Dodgers are probably one of the favorites for Yamamoto. But I just can't understand why a guy like Bob Nightingale is labeling the Yankees as favorites. What is he getting in terms of reports that makes the Yankees the favorites? And why is John Heyman putting out opinionative pieces with no information out there saying the Dodgers and Yankees are co-favorites? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. So like I said, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll be going live tomorrow on the Interstate Mets Report. Special guest Subway to Shea is coming on with Nelson and I. That is on the channel. The link is already up to the stream. We will be going live at 3 p.m. on Friday. December 15th. So tap in with us there, hit the live chat, all that good stuff. I want to hear what you all have to think as viewers. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Until next time, let's go Mets. We'll see how this all plays out. Thank you for watching the latest episode of the CP New York Sports Pod. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you hit that thumbs up, comment your thoughts and opinions, and use the lower right-hand button of this video to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.